What's up, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today's video, we're going to talk about the Kroz fragment event, and we're going to go over the fusion schedule and try to get this champion as cheaply as possible. Now, Kroz is in the game as of time of recording, of course. So first, let's talk about whether Kroz is actually worth getting. So if you guys checked out my most recent video and playtest on this fusion, Kroz the Wallbreaker here, he is a bomb champion from the Ogren tribes. The good thing about him is that his bomb ability is a place ability, so his affinity does not matter for this ability. He also has a pretty cool A3 here where he block active skills, which is really strong. And his A1 is actually pretty decent as well with the stun ability. Now, the bad thing about him is that he has a 2-turn detonation cooldown, and he doesn't have an extra turn mechanic to reduce that. Outside of this turn meter fill. So if you get this turn meter fill on a standard arena team with 4 enemies, you're going to get 100% turn meter back. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a turn unless you're fighting some really slow enemies. So the problem here is that many times the opponent will get a turn before Kroz and before the bombs go off, which increases the likelihood that the bombs will not detonate if they get cleansed off, for example. So it's a little bit of a drag there for this champion. Now, for the Ogren tribes, he might actually just fit in as a decent damage dealer in this faction. So if you guys are short for the faction, then he might actually be useful for you guys there. Otherwise, just check out my showcase and then you guys can come to a conclusion yourself. But honestly, he doesn't look super enticing unless you have a very specific use for him. Now, he's going to be a fragment fusion. So if you collect all the fragments, he's going to be just chilling out in the portal here until you want to pull him, so he gets some additional value after you complete him. That's a small constellation prize. Now, there's a couple events happening in game right now. We have the Dungeon Diver or Gear Hunter event happening, and then we have the Summon Rush happening tomorrow. And right now, we do have a Fire Knight tournament happening and a training tournament. So now that we know everything that's happening in game, let's take a look at the fusion schedule and we'll break it down a little bit further. Alright guys, so here is the fusion calendar. So like I said, the first day we have the Fire Knight, the Champion Training, and the Gear Hunters. So this is, a pretty good start to the fusion. You can just start right away with your energy into Fire Knight, and it will contribute points to the Fire Knight tournament as well as the Gear Hunters event. Now the Gear Hunters event is the standard 3,700 points, which would take you approximately 5,000 to 5,500 energy to complete. It's at 3,700 points. And the Fire Knight tournament is the standard 2,250 points. So that's going to take you about 2,200 energy to 2,500 energy to complete, depending on what stage dungeon you are tackling. The most efficient dungeon for accumulating points is going to be stage 20 for the most part. If you want to add some gear, it's going to be stage hard 10. But you will be paying a little bit of a premium for the energy, so just keep that in mind. So if you guys are strapped for energy, don't do that. Just go for the most efficient route, which would be stage 20. After that, we have the Champion Training. It's kind of hard to train food at the same time while doing Fire Knight. It's not impossible, but it's definitely a little bit more difficult. It is a 4-day event, a training event. Sorry, it's a tournament, excuse me. The difference between tournament and event, books matter for the tournament. So if you save some books outside of CVC, you can use your books during the training event and then get some, training tournament and then get some points there. Training events usually do not count books for points, so make sure you guys keep that in mind. For example, we do see a training event right here, and then we have a training tournament starting right now. After that, we have the standard classic arena takedown 1, 2, and then we have the standard gear enhancement event 1, 2, and 3. Pretty standard there. Expect to spend 15 to 20 million silver depending on your RNG on the gear enhancement events. And then we have the Summon Rush. Excuse me for one sec. I forgot to mention that the total fragments we can get without winning the tournaments, which we can't really rely on, is 110. So we can only get extra 10 fragments from this. So this is important because this is what we want to look at when we look at the summoning events and whether we can actually skip the summoning events. So first we have the Summon Rush. It's 15 points in the whole shebang. It's probably going to be split up into 2 parts or 2 thresholds, which means you have to participate in at least a little bit of the Summon Rush. And then we have a standard champion chase at the end of next week, which will probably be split up in the same way, so 5 and 10, which means we have to participate in both of them to some degree. Now, how you want to participate and what you want to participate in is going to be totally up to what your account has in terms of overall resources. If you wanted the whole 15 fragments from the Summon Rush, it's probably going to cost you somewhere around 6 Sacred Shards worth of shards. And Sacred Shards are the best bang for the buck for the Summon Rush events. Now, obviously, if you guys are pretty short on Sacred Shards, we just came out of the Leonardo event, then you guys can maybe look for the lowest threshold. You can pick up 5 fragments and then still be in the running for this fusion if you guys want to, since we have 10 allowable fragments to skip. All right, keep that in mind. After that, we have the Dragon Tournament that's going to be happening with the Gear Hunters. A bit of a drag here because there is going to be a 1-day lull where doing Dragon will not contribute points to the Dungeon Diver. That's a little bit of a drag, and it doesn't contribute to the first Dungeon Diver either. And again, 5,500 energy or 5,000 energy roughly needs to go into these Gear Hunters or Dungeon Diver events to finish them. Now, if you look at this Gear Hunters or Dungeon Divers second one, there's only going to be a Dragon Tournament and probably only going to be half of it. So you have, you know, roughly 1,000 energy going into this Dragon Tournament, 1,000 energy going in. That same 1,000 energy is going to go into this Gear Hunter 2. But you're going to have to find 4.5 or 4,000 energy after that to go into this Gear Hunters event, and there's no other dungeon event happening according to the schedule. Now, this is during a bit of a lull here, so perhaps, you know, Plarium could put some kind of special event here, maybe to entice us to spend our energy. I'm not sure. Most likely it's going to be some kind of Sand Devil or Ascension tournament, but those are not going to contribute towards the Dungeon Diver or Gear Hunters event points. So this part is a little bit of a drag because you're just going to have to spend energy just to fulfill the Gear Hunters Dungeon Divers event 2 without that energy contributing to any of the dungeon tournaments. In my opinion, that's just extra energy you're not using efficiently to get this fusion. So this part of the fusion is not very friendly in terms of resources. After that, we have the Ice Golem starting up here, and that will, you know, not overlap with the Dungeon Diver 2, like I said, so it's going to be a little bit of a drag there. There is a champion training going on at the same time with Ice Golem. Ice Golem does have some solo options if you want to do that, do some double dipping a little bit. And I guess for the Gear Hunters 2, you could do some campaign since the training event does open, so you can get a little bit of dungeon diving points or Gear Hunter points here through campaign. And at least you have the Ice Golem and the training event kind of paired up together until the very end, so not too bad there. You also get to dip into this third Gear Hunters event as well with the Ice Golem and then the training event as well. This is a pretty long training event, so it looks like it's going to be a lot of campaign farming. Campaign's not the most efficient to complete these dungeon divers, but it's at least a little bit of double dipping. And then after that, we have a champion chase on this weekend. So this champion chase should be 2x voids. So it should be 2x voids here. Unless Plarium does something really weird. We just had 2x sacreds last weekend, and the 2 weeks before that we had 2x ancients. Lastly, we have the Spider Tournament, and the Spider Tournament will overlap a little bit with the third Dungeon Diver or Gear Hunter event. So the third Dungeon Diver looks like it's covered pretty nicely. We have the Ice Golem and the Spider Tournament going along the third Dungeon Diver, which is great. But I'm not a fan of the second Dungeon Diver here. Basically just floating around without any other corresponding events really. So you're just spending kind of all that excess energy into the into whatever will contribute the most points. More like a dealer's choice for Dungeon Divers 2. All right, so personally speaking, just looking at this schedule right now, it doesn't look too bad. There's a lot of double dipping opportunities here to spend our resources efficiently. The only real bad spot is going to be this part in the middle here. This Dungeon Diver 2 is just going to cost us a bunch of extra energy that we don't really need to, that we're not going to be able to spend efficiently, right? Because we're going to spend a little bit of energy here on the first day of Dragon Tournament, and that's not going to contribute to any Dungeon Diver event, not 1 or 2. And then once Dungeon Diver 2 opens, we're going to complete the Dungeon Diver, we're going to complete the Dungeon Diver points for the Dragon Tournament here, but it's not going to give you enough points to finish the Dungeon Diver. in which case you're just going to have to find another dungeon to farm gear in with energy. But that dungeon that you pick is just not going to be part of the fusion unless you want to do campaign farming, which is not the best for farming dungeon points. So what I'm probably going to do is probably do the 5 points from the summon rush. So the first summon rush, I'm probably going to go in with the mentality to do the lowest threshold. So giving up the 10 fragments at the end in the higher threshold. And then after that, I'm going to complete all the rest of the events and then participate in the champion chase. I do have extra void shards that I've been saving up. I didn't use my void shards for Leonardo, for example, so I still have a pretty good stash of void shards. And I will use them during 2x voids during the champion chase, as well as fuse like Brawn Mauls and all that stuff. Now that's kind of my plan just because of my shard situation. So everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. I have some energy, so I don't mind spending the extra energy on the Dungeon Diver 2 component and being a little bit less efficient. If you have, for example, more shards, you guys could complete the summon rush, so full 15 fragments, and then you guys could complete the champion chase in its entirety, which gives you 10 fragments you guys can skip, which might be worthwhile to skip this second dungeon diver completely, and that's only 5 fragments, so you can skip that completely, and then you guys have another 5 fragments you guys might want to skip somewhere else. But if I were to have an extra 5 fragments, I would definitely want to skip the Dungeon Diver 2 component, just because that's kind of the trouble spot in this fusion. Otherwise, it's a pretty straightforward fusion here. I don't think Kroz is going to get a lot of participation. I think a lot of people are pretty down on him, especially from the comments and other content creator videos. And I think just general people are a little bit spent after spending their resources for Leonardo. So people are looking for a bit of a break. Just going to bring up my poll here from my channel. We got 7.5k votes, and 64% of you guys are saying straight up no, and only 15% is actually saying yes. We have 21% here that is not sure. So I think that just gives you guys kind of an overall sense of how people feel about this fusion. For example, we have Maria here. Maria was a 41% yes, 39% no, which is a little bit interesting. And then we have April here, which was a 77% no, for example. So just generally, people are not super into this fusion, I think. Hopefully the costs come down a little bit so we don't have to invest too much. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the video. Hopefully it was informative and hopefully it was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you guys are going for this fusion, what you guys think about this fusion, where you guys are planning to use this fusion. Appreciate you guys watching until the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.